Alright, so I hope you enjoyed the video of the drag strip. Did get the car down there. I'm starting now to get the issue with the starter fixed, but I wanted to talk a little bit about a hypothetical scenario, so to speak, that I always kind of fantasized about when I was building this car. You got to remember, when I was building this car, it was 2007 to 2010, and a very popular TV show was on at that time called Pink's All Out. And my hypothetical scenario is some of the cars, when they came down, now you got to remember, for this to actually have ever happened would have been, just to make it into the all-out 16 or 32 or at Charlotte 64 cars that they did, was not easy to do. But it came down actually at Charlotte, hot lap competition. It was between a Nova and a Maverick, I want to say. And Maverick actually was a local car that was a bracket race car. The Nova was more a car like this, where it was a very nice car, and I'm going to say had a very good cooling system. Now, something you'll notice at bracket races especially, and I've seen it happen more than one time at Pink's All Out, and why I'm saying this is a hypothetical situation is because, let's be real, I suck at drag racing. I'm not that good at it. I enjoy it when I go and I race, and back when I was a lot younger, I was actually planning on doing a lot more drag racing than I actually ended up doing in my life. When I first started drag racing, I was 15, and I would go run a Monte Carlo that just had a stock 350 in it, run like 10 seconds in the 8th mile. While I was having my engine built and building and ended up buying this particular car here. So Pink's All Out was the thing. I, as a aspiring drag racer, I dreamed about going to Pink's All Out and the thrill of making it to that final. Now, you got to remember, there's like 500 cars at these races. Most bracket cars that they take the throttle stops off of and, run all out. They did bust some at some of the other events, sandbagging. And sandbagging was a big no-no. Because what everyone started to try to figure out is, after they had several events, a lot of people started to assume they were going to pick an ET category in a certain ET area. The most popular one used in Pink's All Out was the low 10-second ET bracket. Now, this car, tweaked and tuned and all the, try this, try that. This car here would probably be good for close to high 10s the way it sits. So it would have been in that category of very close to what could have been done, and with a camshaft swap and roller swap and all that, it probably would have been very close. So again, a hypothetical situation here, but this car, I make it to the Pink's All Out, whatever. Now, and also the other hypothetical scenario, and you could put yourself in this scenario with a lot of different things, but especially if you like to race, what your dream would be. And with this particular car, my dream was to go to Pink's All Out and make the cut. That was the dream. The other thing that I've already discussed was goes back to cooling systems. And the hypothetical situation was, let's just say I had a lot of practice. I didn't let the nerves get the best of me. Nerves get me bad. Nerves is the reason I have not bowled multiple 300 games already. I got nervous on the last ball and did something stupid. So, or before the last ball, I would be going to 8, 9, 10 in a row, and I would be basically shaking all over, and I'm screwed up. Never have bowled 300, so if I can't throw a ball down a lane without getting nervous, what are you going to do with a 600 horsepower car on a line when $10,000 in a Napa tool chest was on the line? But again, this was, you went by the hand drop. So I think in that case, I would have actually been better off. I wouldn't have had to worry about red lighting. I would have just waited till Rich Christensen dropped his hands, and I would have probably not had a good reaction time, but I wouldn't have took off too fast. Staying calm would have been extremely important during this hypothetical situation. The hypothetical situation is I come down with this car to the finals. It's going to be a hot lap competition. The person that I am matched up with is a bracket car that has the sorriest cooling system known to man. Most of these cars don't even have an alternator, much less a good water pump or a good radiator. This car, and I thought about this scenario the other night on the way to the drag strip. I was having trouble with this starter. That's another thing that I'll bring in later that kind of ties into this scenario. There was a Chevelle at Pink's All Out that started having trouble with a starter. Whoa, and it finally cranked, and he ended up winning. But what if this scenario that I just faced the other night at the track happened at Pink's All Out, hot lap or not? I would have had to left this car running because it would have only given me so many opportunities, so much time to get the car started. If it wasn't a hot lap competition, they would have given me probably ample time. It would have probably cooled. I could have tapped the starter, moved it, whatever, and probably got it to work. But let's just, again, this is a hypothetical scenario that goes back to the point I'm trying to make and why this car in this scenario would have won this Pink's All Out race. I drove this car all the way to Ware Shoals Dragway the other day. Now, the weather's not as hot as it probably would have been at a Pink's All Out event that would have been held in the summer, but remember, the finals was at night. So I drove down in the evening. I drove 20 miles, and I got immediately in line, left the car because I was afraid of what was going to happen with the starter. I wanted to get at least one run in to get it out of my system. At least I would have been able to run. I ran this thing a good 20 more minutes in the staging lanes to get to the line and ran down the track. I was running my fan periodically because I don't even have my fan right now on a relay. And at that time, at the Pink's All Out event, I would have had I had a flex fan on here, a flex light, one of the good ones that won't fly apart. So the car would have stayed cool. This car never overheated. It was, and then I did the burnout, ran down the drag strip, came back, and I did pull it over to the side in the pit area and cut it off and pulled the hood and let it cool. I didn't want to cause any damage, and it gave chance to see if the starter was going to act up. I said all that to say this. The hypothetical scenario is this car would have won Pink's All Out in a hot lap competition had this scenario ever taken place. It's still fun to think about back then that it was always a ace in the hole that if I ever went to Pink's and had luck and made it to the finals and they did a hot lap competition, and more than likely not, I would have been paired up with a bracket car that didn't have a good radiator. As this car run down the track, it cools off. So it can be sitting at like 2 or 210 in the staging lane. The time I get to the end of the drag strip, it's back down to like 170, 180. No fan running or nothing. So as you come back around, you hot lap, you do the burnout again and go. This thing here is good to go. This car runs way better warm than it does cold. I would have loved to have that opportunity. Unfortunately, Pink's don't exist anymore. They do an all out somewhere, but it's not the way it used to be. So that scenario will more than likely never happen. But if I do find myself in some type of, with this no prep stuff, and they do maybe a muscle car, daily driver, something that I could enter, and it comes down to some type of hot lap competition like it would on the street so you don't get busted by the cops, this car is going to have an advantage. So if you're a drag racer and you drive your car on the street, invest in a good cooling system. I was lucky on this car. I won the radiator at the Williamston Water Festival way back in '07. It's still in this car today. But you want a good water pump. You want a good 3 or 4 core aluminum radiator. You want a good electric fan. Or if you don't do a lot of racing, a good clutch fan is what you want. But clutch fan pulls a lot of horsepower. But anyway, I just wanted to say all that. I thought it was an interesting story. It made me think about it the other night when I went to the track, and the car never did overheat. Didn't even put any water in the overflow tank. It just put an overflow jug on the car finally. So, I mean, again, all this is a hypothetical story, but as a teenager, back in high school, building this car, my dream was go to Pink's All Out and make it to the finals, hot lap competition, because I knew I had a cooling system, and I knew I would have whooped whoever I was racing, because 9 times out of 10, they didn't have a cooling system. 2009, it came down to that Nova hot lapping that Maverick at Charlotte 4-wide, and that, unfortunately, that for those guys in that Maverick, the engine, I don't think the engine seized up. They said it may have, but it got so hot that the starter, it would not turn over. It was so hot, it would not turn over. And they had already lost, I think, 2 anyway. It was supposed to be 3 out of 5 instead of 2 out of 3. So there again, up to 5 runs. As this car made its pass, I would have gotten faster and faster, because this car ran better when it was warm and on a cool night. Anyone else without a good cooling system would have got hotter and hotter. So again, hypothetically, this would have been a Pink's All Out winner had that scenario ever come to fruition. Maybe down the road, this scenario can play out at an event. We'll see. They got this Carolina drag cruise thing starting. It was going on, that went on this weekend. I didn't do it this year, but maybe next year I might consider doing something like that. You got to have a good cooling system. It ain't about who's fastest on that. It's who's the most consistent and who can make the trip. So Carolina drag cruise. So look that up if you're in the upstate area. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Share my videos. I'm sure other people would like to see them. You'll be seeing more of this car. I'm going to do some more to it. Try to get it back to the track before the season's over. We'll see you next time.